Welcome to the front porch. I'd like to welcome today's guest, Ash Woodcock from RPM Hire. Ash, welcome to the front porch.
Welcome to the front porch with Brian Beaudry.
Thank you very much for having me, Brian.
Awesome. Let's start with the basics. Where are you from? What do you do? And do you have any talents that would be considered strange?
So I live in Melbourne, Australia. I actually grew up in Tasmania. I own and run a business called RPM Hire in Australia, and we specifically hire out traffic management equipment. And any talents that I would consider strange, not really. I'm pretty boring, although you might see behind me, I've got some Legos. I do have a habit of going into the Lego store to buy something for the kids, and I walk out with something for myself.
I do feel like that Lego specifically has very much gotten into designing for people who are, have kids, so they're selling to us instead of kids these days.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually a great activity to do with the kids, I think. Mine are quite young, so they're still learning. They wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
build something like that on their own, but they do like helping out, and a good family activity, I think.
for sure. Really fun. Okay, speaking of kids, let's go back to when you were a kid. Basically, everyone growing up, adults are always asking them, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Do you remember the first thing that you wanted to be?
I reckon growing up, every kid either wanted to be a firefighter or in the army, and so I had both of those dreams. But then I think from a young age, I always wanted to be in business. I wanted to be a businessman. Both my parents worked for themselves, but they never employed anyone.
Okay.
And I just had a dream that I wanted to build a business and take it national and maybe, take it further than what my parents had done.
Yeah. So now I have other questions that aren't on our sheet. So you were in Tasmania growing up the whole time?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All I know about Tasmania is like it's an island, and I know of Tasmanian devils.
Yes. We do have Tasmanian devils. I would say most Tasmanians would never see one in their life. They're a nocturnal animal,
Okay.
and they're deep in the bush, and they don't like
Yeah.
people. Um,
Okay. So your parents have these two separate businesses. They were separate businesses, right?
yeah, they were very hardworking. They probably had 4 or 5 different businesses.
And like, what kind of businesses were they doing?
Well, they're both truck drivers. So, Dad was delivering milk to shops. Mum was delivering water and juices. Then Mum had a stall at a market every Saturday. She's had that for probably 35 years.
Nice.
And it's more of a hobby for her now
Yeah.
because it doesn't make much money, but lots of her friends are all around and it's a very good social activity. But certainly as a young 2 or 3 year old, we were down at the market every Saturday selling to customers, helping set up, pack up.
Is that where you developed your sales skills as a kid?
Well, I think we sort of had to, yeah. And I was one of 6 kids, or I am one of 6 kids. So there was a lot of competitiveness, but also we didn't have much money. So if we wanted our own spending money, we had to come up with ideas ourselves. And we had a few successful ones that we built some products and sold them at the market
Okay, now I want
as
to hear. Now I want to hear about a couple of these. What are your successful products?
well. One, it's going to sound really silly, but there's a seed off what's called a she oak tree,
Okay.
and it's about an inch long, and it's got a heap of little spikes on it, and then the leaves are like really thin twigs or really thin sticks.
Okay.
And you could, when the nuts opened up the little pores, you could actually stick the sticks inside them, and so you could make legs and you could put another one on and find a small one for a head. And so we'd make little animals out of these she oak nuts
Okay.
and we'd sell them for $3 or $4. And I think the only reason people bought them was because we were about 5 years old when we were selling them.
I was gonna say there's definitely some things that it's like people will buy from kids. It's like if you're an adult selling these, it's like I don't know about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I remember, probably selling 30 or 40 a weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously, you didn't make you're not currently selling those types of things. Where did you go from there? Like you obviously, you're not living with your parents now. You made it to the mainland of Australia.
Yes.
When'd you come over?
I like to refer it as I escaped the island. But no, I finished school in Tasmania, which is year 12 for us when you're about 17. Mum wanted me to be a doctor or to study medicine. And I really, the reality is at the time, I didn't know how to say no to her. I
Yeah,
didn't want to disappoint her. So I took 2 years off before going to university. The first one I worked and saved some money up and travelled to Europe for a bit of a gap year. And then I came back to Tasmania. I met a young girl called Julia, who's now my wife. And I still didn't know how to say no to mum about medicine. So I took another year off and I travelled over to Western Australia with Julia, and we went and worked on a broadacre farm and in the pubs and cafes in the regional, about 2 hours out of Perth, which is the main capital city over there,
I was gonna say
and save
why'd you
some
go
more
over
money
there? Is
up.
she from there, or is your wife from there? Or?
No, it's a big mining state,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, the mining boom was paying quite a lot of money,
Okay.
and so we're going over to work in the mines. As it turned out, we didn't end up working in the mines, but we got great jobs doing things we love doing, and yeah, probably a much better living environment as well. And so took a second year off, and then we both moved back to Melbourne for university.
And you did not go into medicine?
No, no, I disappointed my mother. I did engineering and commerce
Okay.
in uni, which was still a 5 year degree, and it certainly wasn't easy. But
Was that enough for your mom to be okay, or like what?
I think she's good now. I
All
think
right.
she's good now. Yeah, yeah,
Usually, it tends to be one of those things where it's like your parents just want to make sure that you're successful and able to take care of yourself. And once you
yeah. I
show
think so,
that,
and I think parents always have a bias around how good their children actually are, and um, yeah, I think the reality is I don't think I would have been a good doctor. So I don't think I've got the patience
well,
for it.
good thing you avoided it then.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so you mentioned that you've gone to all these places. I We talked earlier, and you said you started a hire business at 23. So first of all, why the hire industry, and secondly, why traffic hire specifically?
yeah, sure. Well, it really is just a story of opportunity. So when we moved to Melbourne, 3 doors down the road was a local hire shop or rental shop that hires out equipment to tradies, builders, home handymen, a broad range of equipment. And so I moved to Melbourne. I looked around for a job, and the closest thing was this rental shop, and it looked pretty cool. And so I went in there and asked for a job. I started the next day and really, really enjoyed the work and got to know the owner really well and got to spend a lot of time with him. I would work predominantly on Saturdays outside my uni hours, and then a couple of afternoons a week, or in the uni holidays I'd work full time and I'd stay back late when the shop was closed and repaint equipment that we're about to sell. And so I got to spend a lot of time with the owner, and always had a keen interest in business. So we had a lot of great chats while we were working around what it takes to run a business and different challenges. And of course, I was learning this at uni at the same time as well in my commerce degree. And so, about 3 years into my university degree, someone had approached my boss with these 3 traffic signs or VMS boards.
Mhm.
And we'd been talking quite a lot. I'd actually prepared a business case to go and open up another rental shop in conjunction with my boss. And we decided that he was maybe close to 50, I was 20. And even though we saw eye to eye on almost everything, just that the difference in age could mean a difference in priorities for the business. And it's really challenging having business partners was one of the lessons I learned from him.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we didn't end up going with the other hire or rental shop that I did a business case for. But then he said, hey, someone's just offered me these 3 traffic signs and they're a little bit more niche than what we provide. Why don't you give this a crack? And so I thought about it, and I had some money saved up from when I went to Western Australia
Yeah.
before going to university. And I was buying 3 physical assets that when I finish uni, I could sell. They might go down in value by, say, 25%, but really, I know I'm going to learn a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And it had only done about $15,000 worth of revenue the year before, the business. So it was a really small amount. However, it was a great introduction to the types of customers that would hire these signs. So, yeah, I just gave it a crack, I guess. And the plan was to sell them when I finish university and go and get a real job. And
And
that never
so you
happened.
still haven't quite got that real job yet?
No, never.
All right. So I guess how did you kind of discover the market for this? Was this like using the same people that came into the hire store, or were you pursuing like different markets? Or, I mean,
No, it was it was a completely different market.
yeah,
So we actually started off using them for advertising purposes. So they were designed to be viewed by road users for road safety messages. However, they're a really effective tool for advertising businesses. And that was I guess, the clientele that had already came with the business the year
yeah,
before. So there was a car yard, there was a furniture store, there was a gym. And so I took those 3 areas and I went and spoke to every car yard in Melbourne and every gym and every furniture store. And I think early on, the customers liked the young, fresh approach and the sort of proactive sort of attitude that I had. And um, yeah, it was a really, really cool beginning. There's peaks and troughs in every business and in every rental business. But because the signs that generally advertise some sort of promotion. So you would book them in often a week in advance or 2 weeks in advance. So I would know when they would be scheduled to come off hire.
yeah,
And so I just worked really hard to go and get another client for when a week ahead of time for when that sign came off hire. And so we effectively had full utilization for like the first 5 years. And any peaks would go and cross hire from other companies.
nice.
So yeah, it was. I really, really enjoyed it and started to do really well right from the beginning.
All right. Well, looking at your website, it seems like you have a lot more than 3 signs now. It seems like you've expanded quite a bit since then. Like when I guess did the most growth come? Like, was it something that just came all at once, or was it all like planned out kind of from the beginning?
In the early years, it was really driven by a desire to keep saying yes to the customers. So I remember one of our competitors, we were their biggest customer. We would we would own. There was one point in time where we owned about 200 of these VMS boards, and we had 120 on hire from other companies. And then through a personality clash, one of our big competitors cut us off and said they managed to convince upper management we're helping this other business to grow by continuing to rent to them. We should say no. And
Well, you did
I,
keep growing, in fairness. So
well, we did, yes, but I would consider myself, fairly risk averse. And
yeah,
they are actually a really great company,
hmm
one I have an enormous amount of respect for. And so there was this at the time when we were renting from them, we wouldn't approach their customers directly. It was pretty much all organic growth,
yeah,
word of mouth. And so, but so they've just cut us off, and it was a big supply of equipment. So it forced me to take a leap and go and buy a lot more equipment so that I wouldn't say no to our customers. And I was sort of, I mean, it was probably inevitable that it was going to happen. But at the time, I was thinking, these guys have shot themselves in the foot. Now I've got a lot more equipment. I'll need to start actively pursuing everyone in the market, including their customers, to ensure that we can keep this utilization up.
yeah. You got to keep people using your stuff.
Yeah. And so I thought it was the wrong call at the time. But yeah, it was the best thing for the business because
I was
it
gonna say
forced us
sometimes
to be creators.
those bad calls by someone else really benefit you.
Yeah, yeah. And so that was early on. That was a big moment, and then during COVID and in Melbourne, it hit us really hard, and we went into a lot of lockdowns and a lot of restrictions. And what that meant for us and our equipment was we'd built a really good reputation. We're already doing a lot of government work.
hmm
And so we became a go to for these electronic signs to help communicate to the public around the COVID testing sites. We had this incredibly um, barbaric sort of policy around not letting people from the city go into the outer regional suburbs. So the government put in place what they called a ring of steel, which was like an invisible boundary that you weren't allowed outside of. And so what we found was all our equipment was getting used. And then there was a lot of construction going on,
Yeah,
and with the roads so quiet, it was a great time to build the roads or widen the roads as well. So it was this perfect storm where that year we grew 170%. Yeah, I would say it wouldn't, in most scenarios, it wouldn't be possible, except that even from a staffing point of view, except that our staff were either working or they had to be in lockdown and not leave their home.
yeah,
And so everyone was able to work overtime, and
yeah. They're like, yeah, I'll be in.
yeah, they were sort of begging to work more because it was pretty tough time in Melbourne back then. So yeah, that was certainly a year of huge growth.
I was gonna say silver lining for you guys there.
Yeah, I think
Obviously, you
at
probably
the
wouldn't go through it again, but you know,
no, no, absolutely terrible. But I think it's also reflective of the mindset as well, because we had some competitors just close their doors and stay home for 6 months,
yeah.
and we were obviously went the complete opposite way.
I was gonna say much like the roads. It's like, well, the roads are empty. Got lots of space to move my business forward, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. You know, growing from a small business to now serving like it was 6 states, right? Or are you guys totally nationwide and you just have operations in those 6 states? Or
yeah. We call it totally national now. We're in every state in Australia.
awesome. So going from small to nationwide, like what's been like the most challenging thing, or something that's challenging that you thought would be easy, and was there anything that you thought would be hard but it's actually been easy?
Yeah. So I would say the most challenging thing would be actually funding the growth of a rental business. And even with really healthy margins and paybacks, we need to spend more money than we actually make in a year to continue to grow. So you buy a piece of equipment, let's say it's $10,000, it could generate you $10,000 in a year, or some of our longer term products might be $5,000 in a year. And then you add in the overheads and the operating costs, and the best margins in the world are around 40% for rental companies. So you take that $10,000 worth of revenue and you make 40% of it, you make $4,000. And if you want to continue to grow, you've got to invest $10,000 to make $4,000. And it gets easier, and it's compounding, so it makes sense. But when you're growing so rapidly, just the amount of capital that is required certainly can be challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine that also is like pretty stressful when you're thinking about it, because like if it doesn't grow, or if I'm
Yeah,
overestimating the amount I'm actually going to grow, then that could be a problem.
there was a moment during COVID where we had won a really big project that we'd spent about 2 years planning on uh, trying to win this project.
Hmm.
And it was for steel barriers on a major freeway. And it was a new product that we're going into.
Hmm.
And it would have required about $15 million worth of equipment, quite a lot.
Yeah, that'll get your attention.
Yeah. And so we went to the banks and we did a lot of pre planning with the banks. And we basically had pre approval. And it came right down to the wire. And our competitors were just too cheap. And we walked away from it. And it was probably the best thing we could have ever done.
Yeah.
It would have risked the business at the prices and the really long payback that was required to make it work. However, what they didn't see with steel barriers, you have to pin them into the road, and
Hmm.
therefore the foundation has to be a certain strength to actually hold the steel barriers in.
Yeah.
There was all these areas where the foundation wasn't good enough for the steel barriers, so they needed concrete barriers. Concrete barriers are 5 times cheaper than steel,
Yeah.
but we essentially got the same rental rate as what the steel barriers were getting. So we missed out on the steel opportunity, and a week later they rang up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in supplying concrete barriers?" And of course, motto had always been say yes.
Yeah.
So we said, "Yeah, of course." And then we um, went to the suppliers and asked them, to start making them as quickly as possible. And this was in the middle of COVID
Oh yeah.
as well. And we had this pre-approval from the bank, and we checked with the bank, hey, we're going to need, say $5 million extra to buy all these concrete barriers. And they said, yep, that's great. We've done all the work. We've done all the pre-approval. You should have the money in about 6 weeks. So we went back to the suppliers and said, hey, we're all good. We've got the pre-approval. The money's about 6 weeks away. Can we have a 30-day account and we're sweet? And we had a good reputation. And so they said yes. Well, middle of COVID, the banks didn't take 6 weeks. They took about 4 months to get all their paperwork done. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it was a stressful time from a cash flow perspective. Thankfully, we're very communicative with our suppliers,
Yeah.
and they were very understanding. And when the money came in, we paid them in full, and they were happy. And they're still very loyal suppliers to us to this day.
Good.
But it certainly it we always try and pay our suppliers on time. We'd
Yeah.
always had that mentality, and so that was a really tough time paying someone 2 months late. And now that we've got hundreds of customers, I mean, we have so many that pay us 2 months late, and that's just business, unfortunately.
Yeah. So was that a case where you were like making minimum payments, or was it just like, no, we promise the money's coming?
We'd purchased so much, we
Yeah.
couldn't even make minuscule payments.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth it. We had weekly wages to pay and that sort of thing. And, these were $1 million invoices that we had to pay. So we're like, the money's coming. You can speak to our bank manager. Yeah,
Yeah. Please call the
we had
bank
to try
directly.
everything. And
All
then
right.
I'd say one thing that I think you asked, one thing that was easier than I sort of suspected.
Yeah. Was there anything that balances
Yeah,
out a little bit?
that's probably maintaining a higher level of customer service in other states or in other areas. I thought that would be really, really challenging.
Hmm.
I think what we did well is we've hired really good people. And then to give us a bit of comfort is we put in a measurement system around customer service, or there's an international framework called NPS, Net
Hmm.
Promoter Score. And so we survey our customers um, every week, and we have the same person do it for the whole country. And so we're able to benchmark the customer service in each state.
Nice. All right. Any more tips for people who are looking to grow their company, and since you found it so easy to maintain that service level, any more tips
I wouldn't,
besides hire good people and
yeah, I wouldn't
track
say
it?
I found it really easy, but
Easier.
when you've, I think a lot of small businesses are successful because they do a certain thing really, really well.
Yeah.
Whether that be customer service, it could be the geography, that even the hours and that they're open, or the flexibility they have.
Yep.
So it's working that out and then trying to systemize it, or build the business around it. So you really got to do a lot of deep work around why are we successful? Why is it going well? What's really critical to it?
Yeah.
And then try and replicate it and systemize it so that you can replicate it.
Yeah. Definitely good advice. Okay. Well, you gave all these professional answers. Now I want to ask if you ever used the science for fun for yourself. Did you use it as part? Wait, this.
Oh,
I have a question in here. Did you use it as part of your proposal? But I don't know if that was
no, I
timeline wise
definitely
that
didn't
worked.
use it as part of my proposal. I'll give you two quick stories. So one time I used it for fun was my AFL team, or footy team, we refer to it.
Hmm.
We're in the grand final,
Hmm.
and they're from Adelaide, which is another state in Australia, or South Australia is the state. But yeah, I go for the Adelaide Crows, and we're playing Richmond in the grand final. And the grand final is in the suburb of Richmond, and the train station where hundreds of thousands, probably 100,000 people come off the trains to go to the stadium. And we had a sign right there to help guide all these people. And so just for the photo, it was no longer than 30 seconds. I put a Go Adelaide Crows logo up on the sign right outside Richmond Station on the day of the grand final. But yeah, we've now got 750 of these signs.
Yeah.
But just the responsibility to do the right thing is too great. So we it'd be
Yeah, I,
cool
I
to.
could see that one not staying up all day. It's like all day, a little too much, but for a quick
Yeah,
picture.
exactly. So that was fun. And then like a really cool story, and it was from about 10 years ago. I had a guy ring up, and he was asking to hire one of these signs, and he was really flaky in the details, and like it just sounded really weird. And I called him out on it. I said, "Look, this is not really adding up. Are you a competitor just trying to, you know, suss out pricing?" And he said, "No, I'm not. It's quite embarrassing, but my 8-year-old son really loves these signs, and he wants one for his birthday party. And so he just wanted it for one day hire on the weekend." And when I found that out, I went, "Oh, that's awesome. Well, you can just have it for free. We've got one in the yard. I'll bring it round." And so, yeah, so this 8-year-old boy, and he sent me when we booked the sign in, it was a few days before his party. He sent me a drawing that he did on the computer of one of these VMS signs. I was incredibly detailed. He literally was passionate about these signs. And I have no idea why. So we're able to give him one for his birthday party, give him the login, which is sort of over the internet, and he and his friends were able to upload messages to it all day, different, funny things that 8-year-olds would find
Yeah.
incredibly funny. And yeah, that was cool. That is certainly something that stuck with me is, being able to use the signs for fun or use it for good.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to be a possible, like, you just keep like one in reserve or whatever, and it's like try to do this as a separate little stream. But
Yeah.
it's probably not that lucrative, and it requires a lot too much energy. I know a lot of equipment rental companies have stories about customers destroying their stuff. What's the worst something's happened to your traffic control stuff? I'm assuming people have crashed into stuff, but anything other than
Yeah,
that?
and it becomes just part of business because they get put next to the road and often in quite tight spots. They
Yep.
can get damaged really easily and totally ripped apart. We also leave them out on the side of the road for weeks on end. And so we've had whole units stolen. And most of the time they disconnect the GPS and they locate it and disconnect it. And there's probably been 10 units over the years that we've never recovered
Yeah.
anything of. There's some that we've lost or they've been stolen, and then 4 or 5 months later they turn up with most of the parts missing, but still. And the parts that they're after are usually the low cost parts for us.
Yeah.
They're not the LED panels, which cost quite a lot of money. They're pretty useless to the random person, but the wheels and the batteries.
Yeah, it's so many things that I've had my car broken into, and they took stuff that it's like, I would have just given you this stuff, dude. Like,
Yeah,
just don't break my window.
yeah, exactly. So similar sort of thing. So yeah, it's nice when we recover one and it's still got the LED panels in it, and it's just the wheels or the batteries missing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got all, from complete units going missing to, yeah,
Yeah.
just a tow hitch going, which is probably $50 to replace. We've had it all over the years.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to ask some of these other questions in the second half. So I'm going to move those to later. We're going to talk about your award win and your culture in the second half. So let's play a little
Sure.
game real quick. We'll call it Woody or Buzz in honor of Toy Story. If you agree with this statement or it's true, say Woody. If you disagree with it or it's not true, say Buzz. And then I will need a reason for each of your answers.
Sure.
All
Okay.
right.
Go for
Woody
it.
or Buzz? You've been known to cry at movies.
Woody, but only since having kids.
That does kind of change things for people. Is there a particular type of movie that's like, ooh, these ones?
Anything where kids are involved that harm happens to them, yeah. And it is only just since having kids, I'm a mess, absolute mess.
Yeah. All right, Woody or Buzz, you've cheated at board or card games.
I would say Buzz, but my friends around me would say, or my family would say Woody,
Why would they say different things than you?
because I'm really, really competitive at board games to the point where no one wants to play with me anymore.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I wouldn't say it was cheating. I would say it's understanding the rules really well and then pressuring other people to make decisions in my favor.
Okay. Is there a
I don't know.
specific game that you're thinking of when you're
I'm
talking?
thinking of Monopoly.
Okay. It
Yeah,
it seems familiar. My dad used to always like destroy me in a Monopoly. I like even got some books from the library that are like it gave me the percentage odds of like landing on each spot. I tried to like optimize it. Nope, still got destroyed. And it's like I don't
still
know.
got destroyed. All right.
All right, Woody or Buzz, you've told an outrageous lie to a child.
Buzz. Yeah, we try and it probably comes predominantly from my wife, but she really doesn't like the idea of lying to children. So even when we get asked about Easter Bunny or Santa,
Yeah.
we try to not lie about it without ruining the magic
Yeah.
of it.
You
Yeah,
suddenly turn into that customer who's like, well, you're trying to dance around everything.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. What are your favorite fast food fries are from McDonald's?
Buzz. There's a chain in Australia called Schnitz,
Okay.
and it's based around a. Do you know what a chicken schnitzel is?
I do.
Yeah, it's based around a fast food outlet where they have chicken schnitzels, but their chips are incredible.
All
They're
right. Well,
seasoned really, really well. They're like a fatter. They're probably triple fried or something. Um, yeah,
all right. Well,
but
now
so I'd
I
have to
now
say
I know where
Buzz,
I'm visiting if I make it down to Melbourne.
definitely.
All right. What are your buzz? Last question. You have an embarrassing nickname or a nickname that you hate.
Woody, with a last name as Woodcock. I got it all growing up. Yeah, Timber Penis was probably the worst one.
All right. I think that's a good way to segue into a little break before we get to the next questions.
Still, the quickest mouse pad in the old west.
Okay. So you told me in a previous meeting that you're getting ready to do another marathon. So first of all, good luck. Second of all, why did you start running? Are you running to something or away from something?
Yeah, great question. I reckon I was running, you could say both. I was running away from fear and I was running into hard things. And so a couple of years ago, I had a fairly tough time during work. We'd hired some really experienced people, but culturally they weren't quite right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was putting a real strain on me as the business owner and business leader. And I was basically in a position that I hadn't been in before, and I was finding it really, really tough. And so I started working with a mindset leadership coach,
Mm-hmm.
and I was quite proud of my dad bod at the time. I was working a lot of hours, three young kids, and at this time, my youngest had just been born as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I really felt that I didn't have time to exercise, I didn't have time to eat well, and I wasn't really sleeping that well. And it wasn't until it was sort of highlighted to me just how much that was affecting not only my physical health but my mental health as well.
Yeah.
That I needed to change. It forced me into changing, and so I started off. And this coach that I was working with is super impressive, super fit. He'd be mid 50s, ripped as,
Yeah.
and just to me, didn't drink alcohol, was just a really great example to follow. And so I went all in on what he said, and he helped me get my sleep right, my diet right, and exercising. And so that was about 2 years ago, and a year and a half ago, I ran my first marathon as just a test. I guess it had always been on the bucket list.
Yeah.
And it was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. It took every bit of me to finish it,
Hmm.
but I was also really proud that I did.
Yeah. I mean, from what I recall, the stories, the first person to do one died at the end. So it's like, well, if you don't collapse and die, then that's good.
Yeah,
Um,
well, funny you say that because I did the same marathon a year later, and I had, and knowing what I know now, I hadn't done enough work for the target time that I was trying to achieve.
mhm.
So I was really pushing myself, and I had David Goggins in the back of my head going, "Your body is so much more capable than your mind is.
Yeah.
It'll be your mind that gives up first. Push through the pain." And I could have easily given up at halfway at sort of 21 kilometers,
Hmm.
and I ended up collapsing with heat stroke at 35 kilometers. So almost like 75% or 80% of the way through the marathon. Um, yeah, ended up in an ambulance. They cut all my clothes off me to try and help cool me down. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I didn't want that to be the thing that defined me with running or with the marathon. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just completed my third start, or I completed my second one about
Yeah.
3 weeks ago.
Okay. So you ran one fully the first time, and then the second one was the one where you collapsed.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so that kind of makes it so it's like, okay, I know I can do this instead of like if it was your first one, it's like, are you sure you can actually do the 26?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, at
But I
least
was just
you
going
did
too
find
hard.
out that your mind can make you go further, but you also found out that it's probably important to maintain your body and get all those fluids and, you know,
To put the work in.
yeah,
Yeah.
get the training in advance. Yeah. Okay, so training for a marathon does take a good amount of time. I only ever did like a half marathon, but even that, I was having to run a good amount per day and kind of, you know, time consuming. So, how do you find time to do that while running a business and, having a family?
It's actually it to me now it comes fairly easy. Well, for me, the first thing is I've got an incredibly supportive wife who has backed me 100%, could see that I needed to do this for me, for myself, and was
Yeah.
very, very supportive. I would try and build in sort of habits and rituals. So I would do all my running first thing in the morning before work, and then go to work, uh, complete a full day's work, and then I'd get home and be fully present with the kids when I get home. And so I do feel like the compromise on the family time was minimal because I'd get up early and run before work, go to work, come home, and then I'd still be there for the
Yeah.
kids for dinner, bath, put them off to bed. And I think I also worked out I don't need TV or I don't need these distractions of being on the phone and that sort of, and they're so time consuming that if you cut them out, then you can be really, really a lot more deliberate with the time that you do have
For sure.
as well. And so the hard part of the training was, say, a Sunday morning when it was a long run, and to right up towards the marathon, these could be 3.5 hours, 4 hours out of the house
Yep.
running. And so, yeah, we had a birthday party that we were going to one Sunday, and I didn't want to compromise that. So I just woke up at 5:30 in the morning and I ran basically from our house into the city to the birthday party. And then, yeah,
I was gonna ask if you did that, and then it turned out you did.
it was all sweaty and gross, but
Yeah.
kids running around, they didn't really care. Um, so yeah, I think what you prioritize, I think you'll get done, but also, yeah, having a look at the day as a whole or the week as a whole and scheduling it in.
Yeah.
I went past a sign. There's a fitness phenomenon over here called F45, which is just 45-minute classes, fitness classes. And out the front of the fitness studio, the sign said 45 minutes is just 3% of your day. And I was sort of like, yeah, you know what? That's right. If you can just allocate 3% of your day to health and fitness, it's really not that big a commitment.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do the math on that later to verify that it's correct.
I've done the math. I've verified it. So,
okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so you've managed to find this balance that really works for you, and you mentioned that this is something that's pretty important to you. How do you bring that ethic, that ethos to your team at RPM Hire?
Yeah, well, two big lessons from the marathon that I've tried to bring into the business. The first is the power of goal setting, and then working out what it is that you don't know in order to achieve that goal, and then go and be really disciplined to the plan. So with this last marathon, I set a goal of 3.5 hours as a time to complete it in.
Yeah.
That's the time I was going for when I collapsed and didn't make it. But I engaged a running coach, and he'd run plenty of marathons under 3.5 hours. And so each week he would send me the weekly training program, and I would just follow it, like really follow it 100%. And there was I didn't realize how many different types of running there is. Interval training sessions, there were recovery runs, threshold runs, long runs, and they all, do slightly different things and have different effects. So that was uncovering what I didn't know.
Dang it, now there's so much I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I did actually type it into ChatGPT, create a running program for a training for a marathon.
Yeah.
And it's pretty similar what my coach actually gave to me. So for any people out there that, want the easy way, just use ChatGPT. The coach for me was really that level of discipline, and, he'd be looking at the results after every run. So there was no hiding, I guess.
Yeah, you have
which
the extra
worked for
level
me.
of accountability is
Yeah.
important.
So I set the goal. I found out what I didn't know, created a plan, stuck to the plan, and the results came. And so I finished the marathon in 3 hours and 27 minutes, which was under the goal. So that was great.
Yeah.
But then applying that to business, we all have goals we have a large number of goals as an actual business, but then personally as well, I think everyone should have some sort of goals.
Yeah.
And then you can apply the same mentality as well. Find someone that's been there, done that, uncover what you don't know, create a plan, stick to the plan, adapt when necessary. But if you do that, then the results should come.
Awesome.
So that was, lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 out of the marathon for me was really around the self-talk, and the stories that we tell ourselves have the ability to really hold us back. And I'll give you an example. Up until 3 weeks out from the marathon that I just ran, I was telling myself and I was telling other people that I wasn't a runner. And it wasn't until I was doing quite an intensive interval session with my running coach, and I pulled away from him towards the end of the session, and he couldn't keep up. And this guy's been running for 25 years and he's coaching people, and I thought to myself, maybe I can call myself a runner.
You're just like, I guess I am one now. All right.
Yeah, I guess I am. And then the week later, I knocked a minute off my 5 kilometer personal best.
Dang.
And then I think it also helped me be a little bit more courageous in the actual marathon and run ahead of the paces that I was planning to stick with. But it was just really, really congested around them. So when I ran ahead and actually went a little bit faster, I found clear air and was able to run a much better race.
Yeah.
And I reckon both of those linked back to that releasing that mindset of me not being a runner.
Yeah, I've heard some, like, I forget. I listened to a ton of podcasts, but some of them were talking about how, like, if you identify yourself as something, then you just, I don't know, it makes you more disciplined towards that. Like if you
Yeah,
say like I go running, that doesn't really make you that much more motivated to go run. But if you tell yourself I am a runner, then it's like, because I am a runner, I am going to train. Because I am a runner, I'm going to run today. And
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think you can apply that in anything in life. If you want to give up smoking, I'm a non-smoker. Or I used to smoke and now I don't.
yeah,
You know, compared to if you're telling yourself, I can't quit, I've tried quitting, I can't do it, I failed at it, it's sort of
yeah,
negative self-talk. So, yeah.
for sure. Let's go ahead and get back to the whole idea of how you were. What was the award called for the culture that you got at Higher 25?
Yeah, it was the People and Culture Award.
Okay, so
Uh,
you have a People and Culture Award. Obviously, you say that you hired great people. Um, what is it that you're particularly proud of as far as like your people and culture at RPM Hire?
Really proud of, I think it maybe starts with setting a really clear vision and having really clear values and living by those values every day. And then hiring people that fit those same values and fit the culture that we have already. And understanding that not everyone will. And if you hire the wrong person, then it could be detrimental to the culture. Uh, and then taking the approach of just believing in the good of our existing people, really trying to empower them to make decisions, back them up. Uh, even if they get a decision wrong, it's like, well, you had the right intention, so let's learn from it and let's move forward in a positive way. So I think we have built a culture where people genuinely look after each other and want to come to work. I hope I'm not biased being the business owner in that, but yeah, no, we're really, really proud of our culture, and um, we've learned a lot of lessons from other business leaders as well that we try and apply to the business that go to help, build and maintain and cultivate that culture. I think it's really important to actually cultivate or curate the culture rather than just let it happen organically.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and it's not a fake way of doing it. It can be done very genuinely, but I think there are a number of quite deliberate actions that you need to take, and that stems from hiring the right people. It's from the standards that you accept and the behaviours that you encourage and discourage, and yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's even really like running as well, in that like if you're not training and you're not holding yourself accountable, and let's say you're training with others, yeah, you have to have that, I don't know, working together. You can't have a coach and then just ignore what the coach says and expect to
it,
get better.
exactly. It's so important for everybody to be rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, that was a much better way of putting it. All right. You've been to the States a couple of times in the last year or so for a couple of different conferences, the ARA show and the ATSSA. Which one is a better conference? This is an open place. I know we're in the hire and rental industry, but my dad was a traffic engineer, so I'm
Right.
happy with both of those conferences.
Well, they were both fantastic. The ARA show was in Las Vegas, and so I think it was in the end of January, start of February. It was
Yeah.
the first time I'd been to the US. And that was cool. That was really cool to go to the ARA show. It was huge. We've got we've got the equivalent one in Australia. We call it the Higher 25 or Higher 26, whatever year it is, convention. But yeah, the ARA show was on a whole nother scale. It was enormous. If I had to pick one, I really enjoyed the ATSA one because it was specific to our industry.
Yeah.
And so we already knew a lot more people at ATSA than I did at the ARA show. And a lot of products that really interested us and me. And yeah. And so, sorry to say, I'd probably say I preferred the ATSA one.
That's okay. It just means that
yeah.
the ARA can step it up another level for you.
Well, we're niche. We're really niche in traffic. So, yeah. But the ATSA one was fantastic. I met some really good people over there as well. The ARA, was fantastic. It really was.
Because I did have a follow-up for you. Like, do you have any suggestions for them for the next show?
Well,
maybe just to help Australians out, since you guys have to make this huge, long flight over.
Well, one thing I think the Australian Association or the Australian Convention does better than the ARA is that we do a gala dinner. So in the evening, dressed up as black tie or formal, it's very, very well attended. We probably have 700 people having dinner, drinks, the awards ceremony.
Yeah.
It's really a fantastic night. Really,
I do see
really
pictures from our Australian people and our UK people, because they also have an event over in the UK, and everyone's always dressed up, and they all have this gala, and it's like, it's kind of fun. I mean, I don't really like necessarily dressing up that much, but I can do it one day.
Well, when everyone's dressed up, I think it's fun to be part of. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me? You get exactly one.
Oh, only one? Yeah. What do you think American rental companies do really well?
So other people are definitely going to know a lot more about this than I would. But as someone who was never actually in the rental industry before I got here, I think my favorite part about this industry and the people within it are how well they're willing to collaborate with literally anyone else from the industry. Like, it's so wild to me that we just have so many people that I know that if they're on a vacation, they'll stop by some other rental store that happens to be in that town, and they'll just ask for a tour, and they'll generally get a tour. And it's like, I can't imagine most other industries just being like, yeah, hey, I happen to be in town. We work in the same industry. I just want to see your place. So I think that's the most unique and most awesome thing about the rental and hire industry.
I would completely agree, and it's exactly the same in Australia.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, if I'm able to ever get down to Australia, I'll drop by and see what's going on.
Definitely.
Okay. Before we get into the 5 important questions, I need you to give me a top 5 list in a segment we'll call Give Me 5. Make sure you start with number 5 and work your way up to number 1, because after you give us the top 1, no one's interested in number 5. I'm told you have a list of tips for maintaining balance.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so first one,
number 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 5. Take time to reflect. So at the end of the day or at the end of the week, take time to reflect on how you went from a balance perspective for that week.
Okay.
Number 4. Be fully present in the moment that you're in. So don't try and do work with the kids or, do one or the other. Be in the moment. Number 3, set daily or weekly habits / routines. And I found this really useful in, being able to execute a day with lots of different components in it. If you build it into a routine, it just, you don't even have to think about it. It just comes naturally. Number 2, go all in or give it 100% commitment to what you're doing. So if I'm running, I'm trying to use every last bit of energy, if that's what the run is, or with the kids, full commitment. I think as a parent, it's very easy to say no to kids,
Yeah.
but I love saying yes. Dad, can we go to Inflatable World and to the bouncing castles? Yes, let's go on the
Yeah.
weekend. So
Well, at least you
go
get to
all
bring
in.
that over from your starting up the hire company days. You just always like to say yes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's awesome for raising kids. And then the last one would be understand the trade-offs. So if you're going to take on something else, understand what you're giving up. So for the running, for me, I justified it by giving up TV.
Yeah.
Or on the Sunday, I would have to give up 3 hours or 4 hours with the kids. But then if I was starting early enough, a couple of those hours would have been sleeping anyway.
Yeah.
So I go to sleep earlier the night before, in which case I'm actually giving up TV.
Mm-hmm.
That the previous night, still get a good sleep, get up early, go for a run. I'm only giving up, or I'm only trading off 2 hours now with the kids from when they should be awake.
Smart. All right, I'm gonna switch my running, I think, to mornings instead of afternoons, because I've gotten a bit lazy with it since moving. So we'll try to get back into it. All right, let's go ahead and get to the 5 important questions, and then we'll be done here.
5 important questions. 5 important questions. 5 important questions.
All right, 5 important questions. Question number 1: what would you say is your greatest success in life? You've had a lot of them, so.
Yeah, well, just on that theme of balance, I'm very proud of being the balance that I've built into my life for myself. So I used to look up to a lot of really successful business people, millionaires and billionaires, and I started to meet a lot of them, and I found that they often compromised their family, or they didn't spend any time with their kids. And so the biggest success, and it's something that I'm working on every day, is trying to create that balance where I'm present for my kids. I'm around. So I'm not around in the mornings before school, but I'm right there for dinner, bath, bed, putting them off to sleep, and then fully present on the weekends. So that, looking after my health, running, going to the gym, trying to do well with business as well.
Yeah.
I think it's going quite well. I'd say that.
All right. Yeah, you did manage to make it to that childhood dream of having a business, but also having lots of employees and being nationwide. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2: what is your greatest fear?
I have a fear of the water. I'm not a very good swimmer. I could probably swim a couple of 100 meters to save myself.
But you grew up on an island, so you should have...
I know, but it was a cold island, and we weren't really, close to the water.
I was going to say, it's not fun when it's cold.
Yeah. So that's something. So I'd say my 7-year-old daughter could swim better than me, but it's something that I've just last week, started doing adult swimming lessons, and it's something I want to change. Okay. I want to hit that fear head on.
All right. Triathlons in your future?
Who knows?
Okay. If you could tell first day in the industry Ash one piece of advice, what would you tell him?
The industry is full of really, really good people, and it took me a couple of years to work it out, but just working that out even sooner. And so also, if you don't ask, you'll never know.
That's always a good piece of advice for anyone, I think. So many times I think people tell themselves no by never asking and figuring
By
stuff out.
just never asking. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What is your most embarrassing moment as a hire professional?
All right, I'll tell you the story. You can decide whether to cut it out or not.
Okay.
It was about 8 years ago. We were really trying to crack into a large construction company,
Hmm.
uh, and very rare to get the opportunities that they would want to use a small. At the time, we were quite a small business.
Yeah.
Anyway, we finally got a break. We got some equipment out on a major project. They do majority of the work at night, and at 2 a.m. I got a call from the construction manager, and I was really eager to answer the phone. And I said, "Oh, g'day, how you going?" First thing he said is, "Why are you so happy? It's 2 a.m." And I was like, "No, I'm here to help. How can I help? You obviously need something. How can I help you?" And they said, "Oh, we've misplaced your keys, and we need to tow this VMS board off the road before 4 a.m. before we open the road up. It's critical that we get it off, and we don't have any keys." I'm like, "No worries, I'll bring it down to you. I'll be there in 40 minutes." It took me to get from my place.
Hmm.
So I jump in the car, I crank the heaters up. Still fairly sleepy, quite warm. Probably got the heated seats on, and as a young male in that environment, I was completely uncontrolled.
Okay.
But the funny thing was, I met this guy in the car park, and I wound down the window. I didn't want to get out. I was in
Yeah.
track pants. I didn't want to get out. I wound down the window, and he said, "I bet you're happy to see me."
All right.
And I handed him the keys, and I said, "You bet I am."
That's great customer service right there.
But and I genuinely wanted to help out and be that is our level of customer service. So yeah, but just the words he used were quite funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, sorry you've been sentenced to death as as showing up that way is now a capital offense. It's a weird international law. In America, we have this tradition of we do when people are on death row, they get to choose their last meal. What would your last meal be and why?
Ooh. It'd probably be steak and chips, veggies. Yeah, finished off with some berries and ice cream, probably.
All right. I
Yeah,
appreciate that you went straight to dessert instead of me having to ask you for it because so many people forget it.
yeah.
All right. If you could change one thing about yourself, like a snap thing or like you have a genie, what would it be?
Ability to swim.
There you go. That's top of mind. All right. If you could change one thing about the hire industry, what would it be? Again, snap change happens worldwide.
Yeah. It was more innovation
Okay. Is there any
in
particular
products.
thing that's on your mind or?
Not really. I feel like the industry can be quite slow
Okay.
in adapting change or adapting innovation. Yeah.
Yep. I could see that. Tell me a secret about the rental industry, something that not enough people know about. Sorry, the hire industry.
Yeah, well, similar to what you said about the Americans, over in Australia, we're so generous with our competitors, where we very happy to be open and share lessons. If there's dodgy people, then we put alerts out to each other, say, "Hey, beware." But we also go to the extent of mentoring each other's staff, which is really cool, really, really cool, and genuinely want to make them better.
Yeah.
And I think that is quite unique to the industry,
So are
to,
you
to,
are you a
to
part of
different
the
industries.
mentorship program? I know HRIA does that.
Yeah, yeah. I was a mentor last year. I had a fantastic mentee. that worked in a regional business, not a direct competitor, but a regional business, and it was one of the most rewarding things I did
Awesome.
have done. Yeah.
Is there anything else I should have asked you about, but I didn't know to ask, and or is there anything I missed that you would like to tell people about you yourself or RPM Hire?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I think with the business, what's really cool is we've got a vision to be the best in the world in traffic management equipment. And so I think in a few years' time, we'll look to expand internationally, which will be really cool. But yeah, we're definitely that best in the world mentality. We want the best products to be able to rent out to our customers. We want the best staff. We want the best customer service. We want the best, systems and process and that sort of thing. So I think having that really clear strategy attracts people with a similar mindset.
Yeah. Awesome.
And always keen to chat, and feel free to reach out if anyone. Yeah.
All right. Well, I look forward to checking out the news and seeing RPM Hire growing and seeing your international journey over the next few years. Thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you, Brian. It's been great.
Awesome. And thanks to our
Really enjoyed
production
the
team
chat.
for getting this out there. And thanks to you for watching on YouTube or listening wherever you're listening. Share the podcast with your friends, and we'll all talk about Ash and our other guests later, secretly behind his back. And all right, see you next month. We'll keep the Porsche light burning for you.